Well, hello. Because I'm such a brilliant artist, I know that you're going to recognise immediately what I've painted up here. And I've painted the dice because, or the die as the plural, because I'm going to tell you a story about someone who was a gambler. Now, they didn't actually use dice for gambling. I mean, we use dice for all sorts of things, don't we? We use it for playing games and stuff like that. We use it sometimes for maths. But you say you can use it for gambling. And I don't know how that works, because I've never done it. But this particular person, he gambled with something that was much more important than gambling for money. He gambled with his life. And the way that he did that was this, that he figured that there was only one person that could tell him how to live his life. Only one person that really knew anything about anything. And he wasn't going to listen to any advice from anybody else apart from this one person. And that person was this. The number one person was I, me, mine. You see, he thought that he was just the only person that was going to be able to give any input. And he had what I like to call the eye disease. Not kind of this kind of an eye disease, but this kind of an eye disease where you know when someone's got it because you hear them say things like, well, I want what I want and I want it now. And that is the person in our story today. Now, the person in our story, he lived in one of these. Probably like most of us. Yep, he lived in a house. A very nice house, as it happened. And he lived on a farm with his family, so it was a big house, and he had everything that he wanted. Not obviously everything that everything that he needed, but not everything that he wanted. I mean, he had somewhere his own bedroom, somewhere to sleep. He had plenty of food, plenty of nice clothes, all the things that he needed. But as I say, not everything that he actually wanted. And but he did have one thing that he didn't want, and that was he had somebody telling him what to do. And it was just simple things from his mum and his dad saying things like, oh, before you go and start watching television, have you tidied your bedroom? Or, okay, hang on a minute, before you start playing computer games, have you done your homework? And yes, you can go out, but I want you back home by whatever o'clock. And he just hated it. And I guess, if we're honest, none of us really like people telling us what to do, even when they're the responsible adults and they're telling us for our own good and our own benefit. Well, one day he came down to breakfast and he said to his dad, he said, Dad, I've been thinking. Well, his dad almost choked on his cornflakes. I've been thinking that time of the morning. He said, Dad, I've been thinking one day you're going to die, aren't you? Well, his dad looked at him and said, well, yeah, I suppose so, son, because everybody dies eventually. So well, the other thing is, Dad, when you die, everything that you own, half of that will be mine, won't it? And the other half will be my brother's. And he said, Dad, well, yeah, I guess that's the way that it'll be. So, well, Dad, I wondered if, can I have it now? What a thing to say. But his dad looked at him long and hard, and he thought long and hard, and then he said, okay, you can. After breakfast, I'll go to the bank and I'll arrange it. And sure enough, his dad went down to the bank and he arranged it and got some money, and he came back and he gave his son the money equivalent to half of everything that he owned. His son was like, yes, this is brilliant. Now I'm going to have such a fantastic time. I'm going to go shopping and I'm going to be able to do whatever I want and buy what I want. And he went down to the shops and he bought a new skateboard and he bought a new bike and a new computer. And just loads of things. In fact, so many things, it took 10 trips just to get it all back from the town. And you know what? He had a brilliant time for, well, a couple of weeks. And then after a couple of weeks, he thought to himself one day, you know what? I've got all this money, I've got all these things, but I've still got somebody telling me what to do. I know, I'm going to leave home and get a place of my own to live. And so that's what he did. He moved out, he moved a long way away, he got himself a flat, very nice flat, And he bought himself a nice sort of sports car, and he had a brilliant time. Every day he would go down to the beach, he would do a little bit of surfing, a little bit of sunbathing. And then every night he would go down to the local disco or the local nightclub, and he'd be sort of bopping the night away with his friends, and he had loads and loads and loads of friends. Well, one day they were going into the nightclub, and he put his hand in his pocket and oh, hang on a minute. Oh, well, I haven't got any money. So he turned to his friends and said, I've paid for you loads of times. Can you pay for me to get in tonight? And his friends went, oh, what? You've run out of money? Well, oh no, actually, look, we've got somewhere else to go. Yeah, sorry, yeah, bye. And suddenly, he didn't have any friends left at all. So they weren't really friends, I guess, were they? He went back to his flat, and just as he was going into his flat, his landlady was there, and she said, oh, I'm glad I came across you, because you haven't paid me the rent for last week, so you owe me a week's rent to live in the flat. And he went, well, it's a little bit, it's a bit tricky at the moment. I'm a little bit short. Tell me what, can I pay you 2 weeks' rent next week? Would that be okay? Oh, no, I'm sorry, said the landlady. If you can't pay your rent, then you can't live in the flat. You'll have to go. And so that's what happened. He did have to leave his flat. He ended up selling his sports car and loads of his other things in order to clear the debts that he got. And he ended up with what? Well, I guess most gamblers end up with sooner or later. He ended up with this. And this is the clever bit, if you remember, where I take a black paintbrush and we get white letters. And you have to look at the white bits. And if you do, you see that it says nothing. Yeah. He ended up with nothing at all. He got no money, nowhere to live, no food to eat. And he was thinking, oh, what am I going to do? I wonder what you think, what you would say to him to do. Maybe you'd say, well, go back home. And he thought about that, but he thought, oh no, but if I go back home and I have to say to my dad that I've wasted all the money that he gave me, and he said, oh, my dad, he'll look like this. He'll be sort of really cross, really angry. He'll sort of be, sort of have great big angry fists on the end of his arms. He'll have steam coming out of his ears, and oh no, it's no good. I can't go back home and tell my dad I've made a complete mess of it. He said, no, I got myself into this mess. I'm just going to have to get myself out of it. And you know, so often we think that, don't we? That's what we do. We think, I got into a mess, I've got to get myself out of it. And yet the reality is that very often, because we're the ones that got ourselves into the mess, when we try to get out, we just get even deeper and deeper into the mess further and further. Well, if I know what I'm going to do, I'm going to go down to the job centre and see if I can get a job. And so he went down and he told them that he'd grown up on a farm, and the man down there said, I've got the perfect job for you. And he gave him the card with an address on it, and he sent him off to go to a farm. And the man at the farm said, brilliant, you are just what I need, because I need someone to help look after these nice, clean, cuddly pigs. Except, of course, we know that pigs are not very clean and cuddly, are they, at all? In fact, sometimes they can be quite dirty and smelly. But it was the only job that was going, and so he had to take the job. And unfortunately, it didn't pay very much money, so he didn't have anywhere to sleep. He couldn't go and get another flat, and so at night, he slept with the pigs in the pigsty. And every day at lunchtime, when he was feeding the pigs and he was tipping out a bucket full of pig swill, he would look at it and think, I'm so hungry that I could even eat the pig swill myself. Well, one day he thought, this is crazy. Back on my dad's farm, even the servants have got somewhere to sleep and food to eat every day. I'm just going to have to go back to my dad. And so I just go back and I say, Dad, look, I've made a complete mess of things. I've wasted all of that money, made a mess of my life. I know I can't come back and just live and be your son like it was in the old days, but could I just have a job so that at least I've got somewhere to sleep and something to eat? And so he began the long journey back. And as he was going along, he was rehearsing how he was going to say to his dad, I don't deserve to be a son. I made a mess of it. Can I just have any old job? Blah, blah, blah. Well, as he got a bit closer, he spotted just kind of over there something that looked, well, it was a man kind of stood there looking up the road like this. And then as he got a bit closer, the man began to sort of walk up the road towards him. And then as he got closer again, the man began to run up the road towards him. And suddenly the man got close enough and he recognised who it was. And he recognised that it was his dad. His dad was running to meet him. But his dad didn't look all cross and angry like this. His dad had got his arms open wide like this. Not angry fists, but his arms and hands were wide open. He had a big smile on his face. And before the son could even say to his dad, look, Dad, I'm really sorry, I've made a mistake of these, his dad just threw his arms around him. The son said, oh, Dad, don't, I'm all horrible and smelly, I've not had a shower in weeks. And his dad said, I don't care what you smell like, I don't care where you've been, I don't care what you've been doing, because you're my son and I love you and you're back home. And he took him back down to the house. And when he got to the house, he sent off the servants. He said, now look, you go and get fresh clothes for my son and sandals for his feet and the ring with the family crest to put on his finger so that everybody knows that this is my son. And you go and prepare a feast. Invite all the neighbours, because today we're going to have a feast and a party because my son was lost and now he's found and he's back home again. I'm not actually the first person to tell this story. It was actually told by Jesus many, many years ago. And he told this story because, well, he wanted us to understand what his Father in heaven was like, what God's like. You see, so often people think that God's kind of like this, just really cross and angry. He's just waiting to punish us. And he wanted to tell us that God is actually kind of like this. He's a God that opens his arms and is welcoming and he wants us as his friends. But of course, because of the wrong things that the son had done and the wrong things that we've all done, well, we deserve to be punished, don't we? You do get punished when you do things wrong. And that's the other reason why Jesus came down from heaven to earth. When Jesus died on the cross, he was being punished. But not because he'd done anything wrong, but he was punished for the wrong things that the person in the story that I had done wrong, the things that I've done wrong, the things that we've all done wrong. And because he was punished in our place, if we want to, we can come and we can say that we're sorry and ask God to forgive us. And that's what I did when I was a young man. I'd done loads of wrong things like everybody. And then one day I just came to God and said, God, I'm really sorry for all those wrong things. Please forgive me. Please help me to change and I want to live my life for you and be different from now on. Because we know that Jesus didn't stay dead, but 3 days later he came back to life, and 6 weeks after that he went back to be with God in heaven. And do you know what? The Bible tells us that when anybody does that, do you know God has a party in heaven? He throws a party with the angels. So that day in our story, the son discovered that actually it wasn't this that he got, but he got this. He discovered that he got everything. That is, everything that mattered the most. That he discovered that his father loved him and accepted him and would forgive him and would just welcome him in back to the family. And so he had all the things, everything that really mattered. In just the same way that we have all the same things, all the things that really matter too.